In 2019, the Indian government revoked Article 370, which grants special status to Jammu and Kashmir, a terrorist from Pakistan. This makes Quadir, a Pakistani army general, had revenge and wanted to take revenge on India by working together with Jim, a former RAW, Research and Analysis Wing, agent who led the Outfit X, a private terrorist organization. Jim, who had waited for Quadir, immediately accepted the offer that was entrusted to him. 3 years later in Africa, massive weapons sales took place. Jim assigned one of his crew to gather some weapons for their mission. Suddenly someone told them that they had another thing to do in the dungeon. Inside the dungeon, there was a man named Pathaan. He was locked up there and tortured by Jim's men. One of Jim's men came and approached him. Seeing him, Pathaan cursed at him, saying that he would regret betraying their country. He was shocked to see that Pathaan was still alive. Pathaan then asked him about someone called Rubina, but instead of answering, he pointed his gun and was about to shoot him. Turned out, Pathaan was waiting for that moment. He charged and managed to beat everyone in that room and blow up the place. Pathaan hijacked a helicopter that brought Jim's men there and flew away. Meanwhile, in New Delhi, India, a woman named Nandini was busy with her work when she suddenly saw Rubina, the girl that Pathaan mentioned earlier, through a surveillance camera in France. He asked for a ticket to be able to go to France that very moment, along with one of her assistants. She used to have Pathaan, her most reliable agent, but since the past 2 years, she had never heard from him again. She then told her assistant that 2 years ago, Pathaan suffered a life-threatening injury and had to be hospitalized for weeks. Since that time, she never heard about him anymore and didn't know that he was instead imprisoned in Africa. 2 years ago, Nandini met Pathaan, who was practicing his body, despite still receiving treatment in the hospital. He said that he couldn't let his body weaken. Nandini brought an important mission for Pathaan, where the mission was for Pathaan to gather all RAW agents that had retired. Pathaan successfully gathered the RAW X members and brought them to meet Nandini directly. After that, Nandini invited Colonel Luthra to work with the team that Pathaan formed with the ex-RAW agents, forming a unit called Joint Operation and Covert Research, JOCR. They then discussed the attack that Outfit X was about to launch in Dubai. They discussed the plan to secure Dubai from Outfit X's plans, since the President of India was about to visit Dubai for a scientific conference. The mission day arrived. Everyone was ready in their appointed position to protect the President of India and all the scientists who took part in the conference. Colonel Luthra gave the instruction, leading the other Joker agents to secure the place. Meanwhile, President and the other scientists were attacked on their way to the venue. The team that secured them was beaten by none other than the Outfit X members. Knowing the news, Colonel Luthra immediately called Pathaan to tell him the situation. Meanwhile, the Outfit X member had managed to kidnap 2 scientists. Pathaan tried to chase the Outfit X members that kidnapped the scientists, but the car that the Outfit X members used rammed his car and made him lose control. His car rolled over with him and his teammates still inside. One of the Outfit X members then came and greeted him. Turned out he was Jim himself. Pathaan was surprised when he saw that the enemy that he faced was an Indian, moreover, had the RAW badge with him. Jim said that he had an unresolved problem with Nandini, saying that she had hurt him. That made Pathaan surprised, to know that Nandini had something to do with Jim. Jim left Pathaan's car, which was about to blow up. Pathaan tried to save himself and his friends from the car before it blew up, but one of his friends was stuck and he had no other choice but to let him go. Meanwhile, Jim managed to kidnap Dr. Sahani and got him into the helicopter, while Pathaan managed to save the other scientist, Dr. Faruqi. Jim and Pathaan fought above a moving truck. Pathaan received many blows but managed to keep fighting while Jim was picked up by one of the helicopters. Pathaan couldn't stop him and had to give up chasing him. Upon his return to India, Pathaan reported his mission and his failure to save Dr. Sahani from Outfit X. Colonel Luthra then told him about Jim, who turned out to be one of the best RAW agents before he decided to betray the country. One time, in his mission, Jim and his wife was held captive in Somalia. They negotiated so that India would save them, but the country didn't care about it and made the Somali terrorist cruelly kill his wife, who was also pregnant, right in front of his eyes, hurting his heart and triggering vengeance for the country. Pathaan said that his action could not be justified since he had betrayed the country and harmed the safety of the president. He then asked his teammates to trace Jim's whereabouts. His team told him that Rubina, who turned out to be an ex-IC, inter-service intelligent, was related to Jim. They then traced her location, which was in Spain. Pathaan went to Spain and went to a party where Rubina was traced. He watched her while looking for evidence that could be used against her. While spying on her, he was shocked to find Jim, who was also in the same place. Pathaan was ambushed by Jim's men and guns were pointed toward him. Jim then approached him and taunted him for still loyal to India. He even introduced each of the Outfit X members and offered Pathaan to join him without any hesitation, but Pathaan refused. He said that he was not the same as Jim and would never join him. Suddenly, Jim's helicopter came to pick him up. Seeing that, Jim immediately told his men to kill Pathaan. All of Jim's men were about to kill Pathaan when suddenly, Rubina quickly helped Pathaan beat all of Jim's men. Rubina, who was trained in martial arts, managed to immobilize some of Jim's men and buy some time for them to run away, but Pathaan saw blood coming from Rubina's belly and she fainted. After fainting for almost 18 hours, Rubina finally woke up. Pathaan then approached her and asked some questions to her. She then told him the reason why she saved him. She also told him about recapsmovie, a code word for a mutated smallpox virus that had to be destroyed to save humanity. Rubina said that the virus was located in Russia and invited Pathaan to work with her to retrieve the virus. After that, Pathaan told everything that he got from Rubina to Nandini and asked her permission to go to Russia to do the mission of retrieving the virus. Nandini permitted him and told him to stay alert because she didn't want Jim or Icy to get their hands on the virus. Rubina and Pathaan, who had arrived at the hotel, deliberately chose a place directly opposite the building where recapsmovie was kept. They also made a plan to retrieve the virus. Rubina told everything she knew about the virus and helped with the plan making. The day of the mission finally arrived. They had arrived at the building where the virus was kept. Pathaan and Rubina easily penetrated the building and entered the room where the virus was kept. Pathaan then entered the code into the virus. When he finally got the virus, Rubina immediately threw a rope for Pathaan to climb. Unfortunately, the moment Rubina held the virus with her, she burned the rope and betrayed Pathaan. He was shocked to find out that Rubina was Jim's confidant that he used to get closer to Pathaan and used him to retrieve the virus. Nandini met Pathaan, who was caught by the Russian embassy and thrown into prison. Nandini felt disappointed and immediately left Pathaan. She pretended not to care about him and just left from there. Pathaan, who was about to be transferred to a larger prison, was immediately put on a special train carrying fierce prisoners. He was put there so that the prisoners could kill him there. He had no other choice but to face all of them. He received several blows from other prisoners which weakened him. When Pathaan was cornered, Tiger, one of his old friends, suddenly came to save him. Along with Tiger, Pathaan managed to defeat all the prisoners. They also made it out of the train in time before it plunged into the river due to the rail that had been destroyed by a helicopter that tried to attack them earlier. Back to the present day, Nandini ended the story about Pathaan to his assistant. Nandini knew that Pathaan was still alive, and just when she arrived at a house in Paris, she was welcomed by a gun pointed at her head by Pathaan. Nandini then told him that the reason she left Pathaan in Russia was nothing more than training for him before he was saved by Tiger. She then gave him a photo of Rubina that she found in Paris. She told Pathaan to meet her and asked for her responsibility for the betrayal she did to him. Rubina was surprised to find Pathaan following her and pointing a gun at him. Pathaan then took Rubina to a place where they could talk. Pathaan asked for her explanation for the betrayal she had done to him. Rubina said that she did that because of recapsmovie, but found out that Jim also betrayed her and was about to use the virus along with the Pakistani army general, Quadir, for the sake of their vengeance on India. She didn't know that Jim would betray her and begged Pathaan to believe her. Pathaan agreed if she told him the location of the lab where they mutated the virus was kept. Shortly after, Rubina met Jim, who took her to meet Dr. Sahani at the lab. They had managed to mutate the virus and contained it in a spherical container. Dr. Sahani told Jim to rethink what he was going to do, but he refused. He had been soaked with anger and vengeance for his country. Jim told Dr. Sahani to bring the virus away from that place, but Rubina immediately attacked Jim's men and ordered Dr. Sahani to give her the virus. Unfortunately, when she was about to leave, Jim showed up and immediately attacked her. He then shot Dr. Sahani dead and ran away with the virus that he brought inside his backpack. Seeing Jim running away with the virus, Pathaan tried to catch him but was slowed down by the appearance of Jim's men, who tried to protect their boss. Jim accidentally dropped the virus and Rubina came to save the day. She took the virus before Jim and ran away with it. Jim, who couldn't let her take the virus, threw his grenade and exploded the ice below her. She plunged into the ice-cold water while still holding the virus. Pathaan immediately came to save her and took her to his office while handing the virus to Colonel Lutra. Suddenly, Nandini got a video call from Jim, saying that the virus was already spread in her lab and contaminated the suit they were using. He also said that the other virus that Pathaan had with him was a fake decoy. Nandini, who heard that, immediately asked to close all the main doors of the laboratory and expel all his men who were not affected by the virus. Soon, Colonel Lutra came with Pathaan. Nandini explained what had happened and what Jim had said earlier. Hearing this, Pathaan felt guilty, especially when he saw the faces of Nandini and the other infected lab worker in the room. Tears fell down his cheeks while seeing the laboratory being destroyed and seeing Nandini and the other lab workers died. Jim then called Pathaan and Luthar through a video call, asking them to comply with his request. Jim said that he would destroy big cities using the virus. Jim provides an ultimatum to evacuate Indian soldiers out of Kashmir within 24 hours and let Pakistan take control of the area. Jim ended his video call and asked them to stick with his ultimatum. Jim then told Kadi that he had spread the virus for an experiment in a village, but Quadir pushed the agreement to his prophet, making Jim angry. He strangled Quadir, making him beg for forgiveness. Meanwhile, Rubina and Pathaan managed to get some of Jim's men's suits and infiltrated the place where Jim and Quadir were. Seeing Pathaan and his team's arrival, Jim was really surprised, especially seeing Rubina, who sided with Pathaan, but Jim, who had more than one plan, just smiled and said that all the plans he had arranged would definitely not fail. He signed Quadir to attack Pathaan and his team. A fight couldn't be avoided. During the fight, one of Pathaan's men died and Jim used the chance to escape. Meanwhile, Rubina found out where Jim would spread the virus. She also managed to kill Quadir, who tried to attack her, while Pathaan tried to catch Jim, who ran away. When Rubina looked for the place where Jim contained the virus, she was shocked to find that the virus was not there. She immediately told Pathaan about it and asked him to get the information straight from Jim. While he tried to defeat Jim, Rubina on the other hand tried to get some information from interrogating one of Jim's men that were still alive. She finally got the information that apparently, the virus was located inside a plane with the flight code Flight LT-72 and would be spread using that flight to New Delhi. After receiving the news, Colonel Lutra immediately told the pilot of the plane to thwart the landing. In another place, Jim and Pathaan were in a fight to defeat each other. Jim showed Pathaan a device that he used to control the LT-72 flight. Seeing that, Pathaan attacked him and tried to retrieve the device. Pathaan kept attacking Jim until finally, Jim managed to stab him. Turned out, it was Pathaan's plan so that he could get the device from Jim without him knowing. Seeing the device had been stolen from him, Jim tried to attack Pathaan, but he instead got thrown and had to hang for his life. Pathaan managed to thwart Jim's mission. Jim on the other hand had to fall and was killed due to impact. Pathaan then took Jim's badge and put it in Nandini's office. Shortly after, Colonel Lutra came and congratulated him on his success. He then gave Pathaan a new mission he had to do with Tiger. He then read the document while listening to the instruction given by Colonel Lutra. After that, Pathaan met Tiger and explained the mission. Tiger accepted the mission without any hesitation.